All right, brothers. Shalom. First off, I want to start off by saying all praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai. Yahweh being the name of who the world ignorantly calls God in the Paleo Hebrew, the proper and true name, and Yahushai being the name of who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. Those are the names by which we must be saved, because like the scriptures say, there's only one by one name must all flesh be saved. Roughly paraphrasing. And also, I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, that taught us this truth from Tahar, Apostle Tahar, Rakar, Ramlav, Gabar, and on down. Also want to, exhort brothers that are in this thing and brothers that are getting this thing now to keeping doing the good works that, make yourself meet for that repentance, man. Show forth works that are meet for repentance. But I had a lesson today, man. The importance of words. I'm going to title this, The Importance of Words. What is the mark? What is the mark? The importance of words, man. Because the importance of words, man, when I was in school, that's a basic class that you have to take is communications. And they go into those communications channels. You have your verbal, your nonverbal, and you have your verbal and nonverbal communications, right? And in the verbal communications, the meanings of words make the message. I'm gonna have the video at the end of this. I recommend brothers actually sit and watch the whole thing, because what comes out in the end, man, at the end of that video is that's gold, man. It was the spirit that led me to that video. But, I'm going to get into some scriptures right now, and we're going to get into those words. We're going to get into the lesson. What is the mark that the scriptures talk about? Now, IOIC tries to say that, men of the Lord have the mark. Lie. Negative. Because the scriptures have the word mark, but they don't go into those words, which is truly important. If you sit there and say somebody has a cardiovascular trouble and you don't know what cardiovascular means, you don't even know what's going on. So I'm gonna go into the scripture, man. We're gonna get some of these words. This is Ezekiel 9 and 4. It says, "And Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and cry, for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof." And so what is that? This is a mark, but this mark means something totally different than what the mark in Revelation says. The Hebrew word for this mark is tawa, is thawa, and it means desired mark as a sign of exemptment from judgment. So that's the mark that brothers that are pushing this word should be seeking for. That is the mark that you should be seeking for. These works is these works. If you're moved by the fear of the Lord, man, you're gonna do the works that are gonna exempt you from that judgment. The scriptures also talk about this us doing this word, telling people where they're going off, telling people what's going to happen. Like the scriptures say, if you tell a man that he shall die in his iniquity and he turn from his sin, then you save that man's life and you've washed the blood off of your own hands, even if he doesn't sit there and change his ways. So that's the mark that you're supposed to be trying to get. This is Ezekiel 9 and 5. It says, "And to the others he said in my hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. Slay utterly old and young, both maids and little children, women, but come not near any man upon whom is the mark, and begin at my sanctuary." So this judgment's going to be given at the Lord's sanctuary, the Lord's house, man, with the children of Israel. And then it's going to go out to everybody else. It's going to start with the men and women that actually know they're Israelites, that know they're Israelites. And then it's going to go to the men and women that don't know they're Israelites, only of the tribe of Israel. And then the heathens are going to get their shit too, man. It says, "And began at my sanctuary." Then they began at the ancient men which were before the house. So this is the mark that you're supposed to be trying to get, that mark of exemption. But IUIC tries to teach, they try to teach that the men of the Lord back then had the mark. And they try to say there's nothing wrong with you getting the mark of the beast. But wrong, because this is Ezekiel, this is Revelations 13 and 16. And it says, and he calls start at 15. It says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So, men of the Lord willing, you're not going to take that chip. And this might be your lot to be killed for not taking that chip, but it's a glorious lot, man, because the scriptures say precious is the death of the Lord's saints, man. This Revelation 13 and 16, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. So let's look into that word mark in Revelations. I'm gonna get it in 17. It says charagma. That's the Greek word for it. Is charagma. It says a stamp imprinted. It says the mark, brand of the horse, thing carved, sculpture, graven work. It says a scratching or etching that is stamped, a badge of servitude, because when you take that mark of the beast in Revelations, that is talking about you're basically giving your life over to the white man and not unto the Lord, man. So you're changing your ownership, man. You want to be owned by the Lord, or you want to be owned by the damn devil. You're sitting there choosing. But if you go into the root word, of that, it gives you a little more understanding. It says a pale or stake. And if you look at brothers, I encourage you to go look this up for yourself. Just type in pale or stake on Google, and then type in RFID chip and planting kit on Google as well, and look at the shape of the needle and the shape of the pale or stake that you look up in Google as well. It's the same image, man. And so that's what this stuff goes back to. You're gonna sit there and put a mark under your flesh. You're gonna implant it into your flesh. It says this is Strong's definition for karax. It says from karasos, to sharpen, to a point, akin to, through the idea of scratching, a stake that is by implication a palisade or rampart, military mound, circumambulation. See, all right. So that's it on that, man. But that's what the mark of the beast is, man. It's an incision in the flesh that they're gonna put that technology, the RFID technology, into your flesh, and they'll put it anywhere. If you take that chip, that's it. That's it, man. I'm gonna go to the next chapter. This is Revelation 14 and it says 14 and 9. It says, and the third angel followed me, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark, that charagma, the RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast, in his forehead or in his hand, the same shall drink of the wrath of the wine of the Most High, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation. And indignation, indignation is the righteous anger of the Lord, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. So this is the mark that you're not supposed to want to receive, man. This is the mark that you have to resist, because otherwise you'll be destroyed for it. So these are the two things, this is the mark. And those words are really important. If you go to, let me get it, man. If you go to the prologue for Sirach, It tells you, how important these words are, man. This is a prologue for Sirach. It says, let me find this real quick. Let me just grab it out of my sword because I got to highlight it. That's a lot to skim through. This is a prologue for Sirach. And it says, Salak Yakim. It says, prologue for Sirach. It says, wherefore let me entreat you to read it with favor and attention, and to pardon us wherein we may seem to come short of some words which we have labored to interpret. For the same things uttered in Hebrew, the original language, and translated into another tongue, have not the same force in them. And not only these things, but the law itself, and the prophets, and the rest of the books, which have no small difference when they are spoken in their own language. So that's what it is. You have to go back to the actual language that it was written in to actually get the full understanding. So you got to go into these words, man. You got to go into the etymology of these words to actually get the understanding. If somebody tells you a joke in Spanish and they translate that joke into English, it's not as funny. Majority of the time, you're just like, what? And they were laughing super hard at it. You have to go into how that language is spoken to actually get the full force and power and meaning of what the message was. But with that being said, man, I got this video for you guys. I encourage brothers to actually watch the entire video. This shows you there's importance in these words. And at the end of this video, this dude says something extremely spiritual that goes into why you need to sit there and actually go into these words to get the understanding of these scriptures. You got to go into the Hebrew and the Greek, which you can find in the Blue Letter, or just like on the app I was using just a minute ago. It's called My Sword Bible. You can go in there and they'll give you, and you can click on the interlinear part of it, and they'll give you the understanding of those words of what they meant back in those periods. So with that being said, I want to say, call halal Yahweh Shema Shai for giving us this truth, giving us the understanding of this truth, and giving us the faith to even look up these things. I want to say double honors to the elders and apostles for teaching brothers how to do this thing the right way, showing us by example of how to conduct ourselves in this thing, the attributes of the man of the Lord and the code of conduct that we must follow under. And I want to say peace and mercy to the hopeful elect. Man, brothers, keep praying, keep doing what you have to do in this truth, man. Stay strong. Pray to the Lord that he keeps you in this thing, man. And, shalom.
Understanding words is what you really need to start doing. You need to start doing your homework and understanding words. If you put an S in front of words, it becomes swords. And that's what words are. They're cutting. They can cause you great trouble. Humans are word-controlled creatures. So we need to establish what words mean. Again, when we talk about law, there's a Roman maximum in law that says, for he that would be deceived, let him. Simply meaning, if you are so ignorant as to be deceived, then that's your business, that's your problem. So you need to do your homework and find out what words mean, especially in relation to law and government. Because there is a world of occultism that is operating today throughout the world, in which you use certain words, and when those words are used in a court, they don't mean the same thing at all. Understanding law and the words of law, there are two things that this planet has: water and earth, water and land. Consequently, there are two kinds of law, the law of the land and the law of water. You've heard the term law of the land, but in point of fact, that's precisely what this word means, law of the land, because it is the people who live on land. And that is opposed to something else called the law of the high seas, or the law of water. You need to understand the difference. The law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on the land. And so consequently, the law of the land is different in every country. You can do things in America you can't do in Russia. You can do things in Africa you can't do in England. So the law of the land is the law of the culture that lives on that particular land. However, there is a higher law that dominates the entire world. It's called the law of the water, or the law of the high seas. The law of water is referred to as the law of money. It doesn't matter what color you are, where you're from, or where you live. Money is money. And anytime you're doing banking or using money, you are now under the law of water, maritime admiralty. If you go back in history, in ancient history, where all of this began, back in the land of Canaan, and you probably have heard in the Bible, the land of Canaan. The Canaanites were Phoenician bloodline, and in the ancient Phoenician language, Cana meant merchant banker. The very word merchant comes from mer, M-E-R, for the sea, for water. As a mermaid, we have merchant. Merchant bankers. Let me give an example of the difference between the law of water and the law of the land. The law of water, as I said, is a law of banking, money, as opposed to the law of the custom of the people or the law of the land. The Statue of Liberty must be put in water. It could not be put on American land as such. It had to be put in the harbor because it's not the Statue of Freedom. It's a statue of liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port on a ship. He gets liberty. He's not free. So America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave, period. We're not free. This is not a free country. Now let me give you an example of how this law of the water works. Why is it that you have to go to court? People are always concerned about going to court. You go to court because you play basketball and tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? Because that's what it is. It's a racket. And make no mistake, they do not pick words by chance. These words are very serious. They do not use words in terms with no avail. These words are very important. When you go into a court, what's the idea of going to court? It's a game, like basketball. The whole idea in a court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. One team gets up and they throw the ball over to that team of lawyers. That team gets up and throws the ball back into their court. And consequently, it's a ball game. And the judge is wearing a black robe, so he is the referee. The judge is the referee. He doesn't care which side wins or loses because he's going to get paid anyway. So he couldn't care less. He's merely there as a referee, and that's why he wears a black robe. And that's another interesting subject we can get into later. But the judge is a referee between two teams. The judge, we are told, rules from the bench. The word bench in Latin is a bank. Therefore, the judge rules for the bank. Where do you find banks? You find banks on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the current. See? The juice. Consequently, your money is current. see, because it's the flow, the cash flow. And I'll give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into a harbor, all ships are referred to as female. Airships, rocket ships, sailing ships are always female. Why? There's a very good reason. Maritime Admiralty banking law says all ships are female because they're carrying items. They're carrying items for money, and so consequently they are under Maritime Admiralty law. Admiralty is where we get the word admiral, admiral of the Navy. Let me give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into harbor, it parks at the dock, and it ties off at the dock. The captain has to provide for the port authorities a certificate of manifest, because yesterday the ship was not here, but this morning the ship pulled in, so it has manifested. So consequently, all the products, the $800 million worth of TVs or Toyotas, have manifested. So each one of those items coming off of that ship has come off of water. And they has come in a ship. And consequently, on a ship, all ships have a captain. The word captain comes from a Latin word capital, money. So the captain represents the money that's on board the ship. And as I said, the captain has to present to the port authorities a certificate of manifest for each and every item. How much does it weigh? What color is it? How many doors does it have? Etc. And consequently, the captain presents a certificate of manifest. The ship is sitting in its berth. Wherever a ship sits when it docks is called its berth. She sits in her berth, berthing a ship. Consequently, all the items, as I said, coming off that ship represent money. They came in on water. They are Maritime Admiralty product. And this is true all over the world. Now, when you were born, your mother's water broke. And when your mother's water broke, you came out. And this is why you have to have a birth certificate, because you are a Maritime Admiralty product under international law. You are considered, your body is considered a Maritime Admiralty product. Your mother delivered you. This is why if you go to Sears and buy a refrigerator, they will ship it to you. They will deliver it. And that's why you were in your delivery room. Your mother was delivering a product. Maritime Admiralty, you came down your mother's birth canal. And once you, and as you're taking one of the televisions or the cars off the ship and it falls down and breaks, that's all right. Sometimes they're stillborn, so consequently you've lost money on that one. Therefore you have to have a death certificate, and it's always signed by the dock. The dock has to sign your birth certificate and your death certificate. All of these words and terms are Maritime Admiralty banking words. And therefore, if you understand lawyers and judges and courts and government are all under international Maritime Admiralty law. All religions, all churches in the world operate under maritime law. This is why all churches are divided into denominations, like 20s and 50s and 100s. Serious. This is why they're called denominations, because all churches are nothing more than the product of Maritime Admiralty banking. It's an extraordinary story of occult treason, high treason and crimes against the state. Make no mistake about it. There has never been a country on the face of the earth, as far back into history as you can go, there has never existed a country in which the people rose up and demanded their right to be free. Never. The concept of human, spiritual, intellectual, and physical freedom is a totally concept that has never, ever existed on the earth. The only time that has ever come into existence was the founding of this country, where it was understood that we were sovereigns and we owned our bodies, and consequently, since 1868, we're now on the International Maritime Admiralty Law. Think about this. When cowboys in Indian movies, when the cowboys would ride into town, they'd get off the horse, they were wearing guns. How come they could walk into a bar carrying guns? And if two guys got in an argument, they could go out on the street and draw on each other in front of the sheriff's office, and the sheriff would do nothing. How come? How come that men could go out in the street and shoot each other in front of everyone and had nothing be done about it? The reason why is because before 1868, all Americans were considered sovereigns. And that's one of the nice things about being a sovereign, is you have the right to be yourself. And consequently, you need to understand that, in one last point I'm going to make before I introduce your speaker, that in 1868 there was a corporation founded. Anyone can incorporate a company. Well, in 1868 there was a company incorporated. And in that particular company, the founders of that company they referred to it as the United States Corporation. And they stipulated that anybody who would be a member of that corporation or work for that corporation would be called not an employee, but a citizen. So today, if you are asked, are you a citizen of the United States, what you think you're being asked is, are you lawfully in this country to do business? That's not lawfully what's being asked. They didn't ask if you're in America lawfully. They ask you a specific question. Are you, of your own volition, out of your own mouth, testifying that you are a citizen of the United States? Because in that way, citizen of the United States means you are an employee of a foreign corporation operating on the international maritime law. So today, the President of the United States is the president of a privately owned company. The company is called United States. And the word president is always a word that is used in corporate law. Banks have presidents. All companies have presidents. So there's a corporation called United States, privately owned, and it has a president. President Bush is not the president of America. President Bush is the president of a privately owned company. Privately owned, out of England. And you need to understand words and terms. Because I believe that there is a divine presence in the universe that men call God, and one day that divine presence is going to move on the earth, and we're going to see freedom come back to this world. And when it does, you're going to need to understand words and terms and how they have been used to trick you.